roll call, please.
Ms. Dinah Minus,
Present.
Ms. Francina Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Alan Franken,
Present.
Councilman Montoya.
Present.
We're all present, senor. We have a quorum.
Also known that Mr. Vaqueras, our finance director, is present. And do we have, Eleanor Duran on board?
She's listening.
Okay. Well,
So-
just reflect at the minutes that the staff is available, present also.
Okay.
So we do have a quorum. Let's pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And
And
to
to
the
the
republic
For which it stands,
nation.
one nation, under God,
Under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
For
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you very much. So next item is approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Who makes a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Franken. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, none. So approved. Next item is approval of minutes of November the 15th, 2021. They're pretty short meetings, meeting notes. We started at 2:20 and ended up at 2:54. So we got to business, I guess. Started late, but we got it going. So I'll stand for a motion to approve the minutes of November the 15th.
Am I live? Can you hear me?
Are we? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just was going to try to get a clarification on the minutes, Chairman, where it says funding for the acequias brought up by Dinah Minus. In response, Councilman Montoya states that the city of Las Vegas only invests and the city has no jurisdiction on them. I know it's hard to get these off tapes, but what did you say?
Yeah, basically that the city of, we have no ways of doing any investments for the acequias. They're their own separate entity. They don't belong to the city.
Okay, it just says
And they
the
ask
city of
for their
Las
own
Vegas
funding.
only invests. That's what,
Yeah, the city only invests on our water system.
okay, if we
We can
can
only make investments on our own city
only
water
invest
system.
on the city,
City's water system, yes.
okay.
And as a matter of fact,
We could have that,
Okay. That correction?
yeah, I'd go ahead and move that the minutes be accepted as corrected.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dana?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? One? Francine, did you oppose? Oh.
I was
okay, you're not good.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor? Motion passes. Mr. Vaqueras, do we have any public input?
No, sir. None at all.
Okay. Next item is discussion item A, resolution 21-52, online auction. Mr. Vaqueras?
I am taking resolution 2152 for approval from the council on Wednesday. We want to have another online auction before the end of the year if possible. From what I can remember, they want a 7-day window to have the auction online and then close it at the end of 7 days and get rid of all our obsolete and surplus equipment.
Mr. Baqueta, is it you that's handling the whole process of the auction?
No, we got our inventory tech that put the book together and got the signatures from the director saying this is the stuff that we want to sell. So,
Mr. Vaqueras,
And
is it
in regards-
online?
In regards
Yes.
in regards to OSA, the Office of the State Auditor, we're following all the rules that apply through OSA as well?
yes, we got approval from DFAs and on all our obsolete stuff. So,
We saw those already, right?
excuse me?
We saw that book and all those pictures and everything already.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you got a PDF file on it. Had pictures of about 8 trucks and a bunch of other steam tables, a pool table, and
Mr. Vaqueras, how is all this going to be advertised? So people know that it's going on.
I think the online auction puts it on the website so that it'll be on our website. It'll also be on their website. And I guess most people that know that there's an auction out there, they'll go onto that website, auctioneer's website, and look at the stuff.
Well, I know that in the past we've had auctions and a lot of them are like in March or in July, June, when the weather's nice and people get around. But due to the COVID and since it's going to be on online, most auctions are now happening online anyway. But it's good to have 2 auctions a year that we can deplete of stuff that we're not using, and hopefully it won't end up in our backyards.
Mr. Baqueta, is there an inspection day set aside where people can physically come and do an inspection?
I'd have to ask Margaret to see if they can actually come in and view the items before. And I'm thinking you're gonna have a tight window, 7 days between now and the end of the year. You're gonna have to bid on what you see on the pictures.
Okay. I was just curious. We're doing an auction and we have an inspection day and then the next day is the auction day. So
The actual,
I just was curious.
Mr. Vaqueras, was there any vehicles on this auction?
8 of them.
8 of them.
Yeah,
And they're basically the recreation center?
rec centers, the parks.
Any other questions? And just to note, the funding that is received from this auction will go to its prospective department. Correct, Mr. Vaqueras?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if there's something that comes from the police department, it will go back to that funding, or recreation center, it goes back to that funding.
Mr. Montoya,
Yes.
that's not discretionary at the department level though, is it? They'll still have to have budgeted items to spend that money?
They'll go into their department for any kind of operations in that department.
But that doesn't have to get approval by the by the city manager or council on what they're going to spend it on?
Well, by the city manager, yeah. It all depends on the amount, but normally it goes through the city manager.
So in other words, would you have to do a bar? Is that what you're getting at, Mr. Franklin? They would have to do a bar then if they had like, let's say they collected 50,000 and 10,000 was gonna go to the police department. In other words, you'd have to bar that amount so that they could actually spend that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baquera.
You're good.
Okay, that's what I was after, that
Yeah.
they just couldn't go out and, spend it without
No.
getting a budget amendment.
Well, with the fact that they're depositing that money as a sale, as soon as we show revenue, we can do a bar for the expense
Was that
because
called?
we have the money
I think I
up front.
talked to you already, hon. Okay, hon. Bye-bye.
I just wanted to make sure there is some sort of approval process where they just can't say, oh, well, let's go to Albuquerque and have a party
Oh,
for the morale of the department, or
Yeah,
No.
something. That it needs to be.
Take the councilman with you.
I would just book that as revenue, Jesus, and you wouldn't have to do any of that,
yeah.
I just wait till next year. Hey,
And-
this is what I received in revenue, and it'd go into next year's budget. But
and
that'd be easier.
No, thank you, Mr. Franklin. That's a legit question, and we need to be accountable for all taxpayers' monies, and that is part of it. So, with that, if there's any other questions, I'll ask for approval of Resolution 2152.
I move to I move to recommend approval by council.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dinah Minus,
Yes.
Ms. Francine Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Alan Franken,
Yes.
Councilman Montoya.
I believe I don't have a say-so.
Say so?
Oh, that's right. They were just checking you.
Yeah, checking. Motion passes unanimously. It will be taken to council on Wednesday's meeting. Next item is letter B, November finance report. Mr. Vaqueros.
For the general fund, November 30th, we should be at 42% for the year. We're right at 42 in the revenues. We're at 37 in the expenditures. It gives us a surplus of 20,125. On the enterprise funds, we got 35% revenue, 27% expenditures, with a surplus of 92,912, 569. Then on the rec center, you got revenues at 25%, expenditures at 19%, with a surplus of 93,098. On the lodger's tax, you got revenues at 54%, expenditures at 29%, with a surplus of 107,805.
Is it just me, Mr. Vaqueros, or do we all have three different reports for the lodger's tax for
The
September?
lodger's tax You requested that we show some of the past months,
Okay,
so there's October and September in there also.
okay. And did you guys all get that?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Pretty consistent.
Yep.
Any questions? Mr. Vaqueras, on the license and fees,
Yes, sir?
normally those come in January 1st, right?
Yes, I do believe licenses kick in January 1.
And like for this last month, did that number increase at all? Or the last 2 weeks?
Oh. Let me
Because it
bring
was
it
brought
up.
up to our attention and we got a listing that there was like 60 different businesses in town that were lacking their current business license for this last year that were due in January. So I'm curious as if we're supposed to send out a letter advising them that they needed to be brought up to date.
Okay.
You know. So
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr.
Uh,
Freeland.
we, of course, we do licenses for all our businesses, but all of ours we submit in March. I think it's a March 15th deadline. Now, we wait till the deadline. It is for 2022 coming up, but we submit all of our business registrations right at the deadline, which is about March the 1st.
Yeah, that's a deadline, but they're due January 1st and they give you 90 days.
Okay.
So you guys do wait till the end, to the deadline.
Yeah.
But beyond the deadline of March, we still have like 60 vendors or licensed businesses that were not in compliance. And where the city was going to send them a letter, asking them to update it. The repercussions that this has is that at the state level, once you let that license expire, those from April, what was it, April or March 31st?
March 31st.
When it's due, then when you come back, normally by regulation, you're a new business. And then if new laws came into effect, you're going to have to abide by those new laws. And if there's an expense to your business, to upgrading your buildings or your facilities or your structures, that's on your dime. Well, it's a win-win situation when you do meet the deadline. That's all I'm saying. So, but I was just curious if there was a difference in the license fees for this last few weeks or this last month.
This last month. I will send you a report on license and local fines.
But no, we haven't even got a letter yet for, oh, you're talking about for 2021, Mr. Montoya,
Yes.
that people have received letters saying
No,
that
they're
they're past due. I see.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
If I may, go back to the lodger's tax,
Yes.
your surplus is at what, 912,000?
Lodger's tax, no, surplus is 107,000.
Okay. So what's the
805.
912, 590, 569? Of course, I have mine sideways, but. Oh, no, that's enterprise. I'm sorry.
The enterprise surplus is at 912,000.
What is it that you all use that funding for?
That's enterprise. That deals with our wastewater, natural gas, solid waste, and our water.
Okay.
that's a real wide range of uses for it. Some of them are matching monies for some projects, and whenever there's any upgrades that need to be done to water lines and so forth, I mean, that's where part of that comes from.
Now, those surpluses stay within the enterprise operations, correct? They can't be pulled out for
Other things, no.
No,
the purposes.
it all stays within the enterprise.
And your lodger's tax, what is that fund used for?
There was a big movement to find what it was all about. We had Councilman Romero bring in some literature from the state, which shows us what we can use it, and on like 5% can be into infrastructure, and the rest will have to be promotional and advertising for the city, tourism.
So when I see it go up, that's my question, okay? Like if this one, the surplus is at 101, and I'm looking sideways because I'm just looking off the computer, I didn't print them out, but one of them, the surplus is 101, and the next month it's at 107. So you're going up, right?
Yes.
So does that mean that there's not any
We're not
expenditure
spending it.
Yeah, that's all.
Well, we are spending it. You will see it next month.
What are we buying? Spend it, spend it.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the lodger's tax paid for that skating ring that's going to be in at the Safeway parking lot.
Yeah, it was a request by Mayor and Council from Lodgers Tax, and we approved it to go ahead and spend $48,000, around $48,000 for that skating ring that should be coming in hopefully around Christmas.
So has that expense already been encumbered, Mr. Baquera?
No, I don't think so. I
We haven't
haven't seen the paperwork cross my desk.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that in yet. But the other things that we've used it for was this last month, we spent $21,000 for advertisement of the Old Town businesses for Christmas. And due to the construction that was going on there, $21,000 was given to the businesses down there, First Business Alliance, for promoting businesses. And that's part of what that money is used for, promoting or advertising. Of course, that 5% that Mr. Vaquero is talking about is we also, we're going to use some of that money for some canopies for some parks and for playground equipment. Now, I don't know if all the monies that we got from the COVID, if we were able to pay for those things, but we got them ordered, and those are for different city parks. But if not, we would have tried and go through lodger's tax on obtaining that. So yeah, there is a big pocket of money there, and we are, Mayor and Council are moving forwards to utilize it. As a matter of fact, I'm not quite so sure, but the demolition on that Moreno building we might be able to use it, but again, I don't think you can use it for parking lots, and that's what's going to become off that building. But we are going to demolish it regardless. We'll find the funding for it. So those are the kind of things that money is used for. So like
that's not from the COVID funding, right? You're not using COVID.
Lodger's tax.
And can I branch off into COVID as far as Have we started spending any of that money down? Have you encumbered anything? I know of off those lists prior that you gave us a couple months ago.
The police, if I'm not mistaken, got their safety bullet vests off of that money already. They're on the waiting list. Chief said another 2 to 3 weeks before we get our vehicles.
Yeah,
What
the
else is-
vehicles is a waiting list, huh?
Well, they're getting retrofitted now for
Right.
decals and lights, but it's a waiting game, 2 to 3 weeks.
Between that and metal, if we ordered tables like for our playground equipment, we're looking at like 5-6 months on down the road if we place an order. That and vehicles, if you try and order a vehicle, it's like next year they tell us to wait for another year. You know what I mean? But we have deadlines. We have when we have to spend the COVID money. That's why I'm asking us to where are we at on the COVID?
Our COVID money is being spent, allocated and spent. So, I mean, that's a big listing that I gave you guys a couple of meetings ago that we spend it on employees and then the list of items. So all that money has already been spent out.
It'd be nice if we could see an expenditure report.
So all your money's been spent already, Jesus?
Well, it's been earmarked. It hasn't been
Earmarked,
spent.
yeah.
Yeah, did you have a deadline on your grants?
The COVID monies, no.
That was a listing that Jesus gave us about 2 or 3 meetings ago that included what mayor and council had approved to spend that money on. We got that listing.
So no one had any deadlines?
I was asking if there was a deadline. I mean, I think our grants are like for 2 years of the COVID.
Right.
COVID.
We have 2 years to draw it down.
Yeah, so do we. We have certain dates. that we
Right.
have to draw it down, yeah.
That's COVID monies.
Right.
Correct.
Our COVID monies are been drawn down and spent. So our ARPA monies is what we're still.
Okay. Where are you at on the ARPA then?
We're
And
in
how much
the
was
middle
that amount again?
1.5 million this
1.5.
year and 1.5 next year.
Right. Okay. Same
So-
here. We have 3 million. So,
Yeah.
so where are you at on that one?
Mayor and council has already divvied up the 1.5. Like I mentioned, most of it, some of them, our police department has spent some of their stuff. Everybody else is getting requisitions going to encumber their funds.
Okay.
But it'll have to, it's all going into parks and streets. Our utilities director, Maria, got a good chunk of it for streets.
And that's one that every councilman got $345,000 for repairs of
each ward.
sidewalks or for each ward, for streets or sidewalks. That's the part of the listing that I gave a report on a couple of meetings ago. Out of those 345, I gave Gainas River 45,000 of it. So all that money was already, allocated for different purposes. We're just waiting for next year's 1.5 again.
And,
So-
and is that ARPA money in your general fund or do you have a separate fund for that?
It's a separate fund.
And do you give us an expenditure on that one as well, a breakdown? Like the way you do for the general, the enterprise and the lodgers?
It's rolled up into the general fund.
It is,
Yes.
no problems with procurement then if you're making big purchases?
No, no. Miss Helen will question anything and everything, so we're getting approval from our purchasing officer.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any problems with journal entries you don't want to discuss with us? No problems.
No,
No budget concerns, budget adjustment requests, or journal entries you'd want to share with us?
none that we are aware of. We just had our exit interview with our auditors. We got about 5 or 6 findings.
Were they XCM still?
No, Portillo, Brown, and Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you pleased with them?
Yes. There were our new auditors, and you know how it goes. It's when they spent 2 weeks here on site and trying to learn our internal controls, and it was just had to show them how we do everything, because since they were new and we didn't know them, so it's like the honeymoon.
Your exit meeting went okay?
Yes.
The final submission on November 15th took place? They got it on
They're
time?
going to do it
Submitted it
now.
on time?
Yeah. So we got a couple of last minute adjustments that we're still working on, but we should make the deadline pretty damn good.
Good.
I guess Mr. Vaqueras will be defining those findings from that audit with the mayor and council, and then we'll give direction on correcting it and what they were to begin with, and then go from there and correct them, give approval. I did want to mention something else, and I just blew my mind. I don't know. I forgot what I was going to ask Mr. Vaqueras. Well, either way, is there any other questions for the November finance report? So no last one. Barbie, go ahead.
Just for the future, I'd like to still, I'm still interested in seeing, like the expenditure portion. And that way we get an idea as to how the money flows out, instead of us asking, okay, well, where are you at on this? Where are you at on that? You would see it firsthand, right? And I'm not sure if there's a report, I know you work with Tyler, but maybe I could talk with Mr. Jesus a little bit and just maybe show him what I'm talking about as far as the report that I don't know if Visions is able. I'm sorry, we use Visions, but if Tyler Technologies has the capability of putting that report together, how to print it.
I can
we get an
I
idea.
can get an accounts payable report
Right.
and just show
So
you all the bills.
that accounts payable report will show the expenditures, and that way when it comes time for our meeting, you would have shared all that documentation with us, and so we would just have all our questions for you all at the time that we meet again. Does that make sense?
And you're talking about items that have already been spent.
Stuff that got spent or got paid for in November.
And what's the purpose of it if it's already been spent? Ms. Steiner? Ms. Minus? Dinah, can you hear me?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking, what's the purpose of us getting a report that on monies that have already been spent?
Transparency would be the first one. That way we acquire more knowledge as far as how your operation goes.
Okay. Yeah, because normally on all these expenditures, especially the big ones, they'll have to go through mayor and council, and they'll have to be publicized and before we even vote on them and or send them out for publication. So a lot of this stuff has a process before we even spend it. Now, if you're talking about the small spending that the department heads do on a day-to-day basis, all those go through approval of the city manager, or anything under $60,000 or $59,000 go through the city manager's office for his approval. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I have no problem with it. It's just that to me, it's already after the fact, I guess. That's just all I'm saying. But if you can pull out that report, Mr. Vaqueras, how long of a report would that be?
Should be a one-page.
Okay. Well, then we can add that to your report, if you don't mind.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, after we review it, we might even include it in our mayor and council report if it's available to us afterwards. That way, at least we know what's been spent. But normally, mayor and council is pretty updated on why the city manager as to what fundings have been spent or allocated already, or what the balances are and so forth. So we basically every councilman or woman meets with the city manager on a weekly basis, and sometimes 2-3 times a week, sometimes twice a day. But just to be informed and to find out what's going on and where we at on this funding, on this project, this and the other. So it's not like we're gone and we only see each other at meetings. That's totally not the case. But if it helps us to see how we're running business and how we're spending the money, and that's good.
If I may, I think you have a good committee.
Yeah.
Thus far, I think you have everybody here seems very committed to being a part of this is a successful committee, in my opinion, but it would just educate us a little bit more.
Exactly.
I mean, to me,
That's
that
fine.
way we know we wouldn't be asking questions by saying, well, where are you at with the ARPA money, and where are you at with this one? Because you would be showing us where you're at,
Okay.
Yeah, you're showing us
that's just
the
because
overall picture. Yeah, what Dinah's saying is you're showing us the overall
The whole
picture, but you're
picture.
not showing us the details. Yeah.
And just from my experience of just going through one every month, and just sharing that with my committee, I have two board members that sit there. They present to the rest of the board and say, we met, we approved all the expenditures. They know every single dollar that was spent for that 1 month, and they have an opportunity to ask any questions at that point. I share also all budget entries and journal entries with them as well. Any new business, any new bars, you see a budget balance report going on. But like I say, this committee, I think that all of us are getting better And when I think we're just a little bit more hungry for more information, and to help, not to hinder anybody.
Point well taken. We will supply that, Mr. Vaqueras, in our next meeting.
Will do.
Thank you. I do want to, I forgot again. I wanted to mention, my mind's like sporadic today. It was important. Oh, I was going to say, Mayor and Council is going to have a special roundtable meeting on Tuesday with our directors. And again, this is going to be, I believe the agenda is to create a list for this year's legislative session of priorities. Basically,
That time.
we all know that Mayor and Council are in support of probably the top 3 projects as priority for the city, and that is, the water reservoirs, and then the Rodriguez Parks Complex and the Gainas River. Now, every councilman has been asked to go down the list and prioritize all the projects, whether it's road projects, utility projects, whatever the project might be. So all those lists have been turned into our city manager, and then we'll have this meeting and get all the directors' input, and then choose from all those listings from everybody's efforts put forth. And this way we know which ones have money into them already, which ones lack money, and which ones we can complete, and then we move on. So I was just going to ask this committee if they had any recommendations to Mayor and Council.
Mr. Montoya?
Yes.
Okay, so you were allocated last year from the legislature, right? The baseball, right? Your
Yes.
complex out on Rodriguez Park.
Yeah.
So has any of that, and that was, what was the allocation? Was it, I know it was a lot of money. Was it
That's
5 million?
3.5.
How much?
3.5.
It was 3.5. So has any of that money been started? Have you guys started to do
Well,
to break ground on it?
the first thing that we needed to do was put it out for RFP to get somebody to survey the land through the air. Looking down, I don't know what you call that, air view survey, I guess. But we had allocated some monies from some of that. I don't know if it was the COVID or the other.
ARPA monies.
The ARPA money, we allocated that money for that.
Okay.
So this other money, we're saving it more for planning and designing and so forth from then on. So we're in that process. We haven't, I don't believe we have spent a penny yet, right, Mr. Vaqueras?
We've encumbered, I think it's 78,000 for the aerial survey.
Yeah, aerial survey.
For probably the professional service.
Yes.
Have you acquired an architect?
No, that
Not
is
yet.
the next step.
So you probably have to go out to bid for the architect and then for the construction project?
Mhm.
Yeah, but they need to see the area from above first, and the architect is not going to do that. I mean, that's
And how many years do you have to liquidate it? Mr. Vaquera, do you know?
2
Is it
years
the
for
funding?
the legislative funding, yes.
Yeah. How many years do you have?
2,
2?
yes.
So we need to move on that as soon as possible.
We're moving.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, on the Gainas River, we had a meeting this morning with the city manager and the Watershed Alliance and the utilities director, another councilman, myself, Romero, and our parks director. And again, we're asking Ground Studios to give us a plan of the cost analysis and also a stage of what we can move forward on at what different levels and what stages. And we have a little bit of money there, like I think $300,000. So what we are going to request for we have another request for the legislature this year, and I think it's 800 and some thousand or something like that. So let's see how it goes. They say there's a lot of money for that kind of activity, so it's all got to do with tourism and with economic development. So that's what we're moving forwards to. You know, we did go out there, and Councilor Romero, the city manager, and Councilor Elaine Rodriguez, and our fire chief, I think, was there. Well, anyway, we visited and toured the old city hall, and we'll be coming up with determinations as to what we're going to move forward with on that. You know, so I don't know, remodel it, sell it, or condemn it, whatever it might be. You know, let's see what happens. Fix it for nonprofits. I don't know. Make a city hall out of it. I don't know, but hopefully we don't push the can down the hill on that one. So let's see what happens. I mean, those are things that we're working on. But again, I asked this committee if they have any recommendations as to what this city needs to look like, or wants to be look like, or what we want to put our money into, or if we have any requests.
If you're headed in the direction of Rodriguez Park, you might as well stick with that, right? If they've already allocated so much to you, and so much more is needed to finish it, it only makes sense probably just to try and go in that direction.
Is that the consensus of the board?
Right.
Well, there's a lot of areas in the city that need attention. Obviously, that should be a priority, but there's other parts of our city that would benefit from some capital outlays for sure.
What is that, Mr. Franken?
Well, one that I'm particularly fond of is the golf course. Now that I think we're headed towards a management plan, and I don't know how the equipment will be handled to take care of the golf course, but if we're going to take it under as a city, which I hope we do, we need to get good equipment. Equipment is in poor condition. I would hope we could start budgeting some requests for capital for the golf course itself, especially equipment to maintain and improve the golf course.
This is news to me, Mr. Franklin, because I haven't heard anything about the city taking over it or anything like that. I've requested that the city take over it, but to no avail. So this is news to me. But yeah, do you have any other ideas?
What other projects were you talking about for water?
Pardon me?
What other projects were you talking about for water?
Well, we've renovated one reservoir, and we need to renovate the other one. So there we have millions of dollars to be asked for. Those sometimes come from different pockets of money, but we've got the largest request in millions of dollars for that to be renovated. There's some fundings already there and in place, and then we need a lot more. And just to let you all know on the water issues, the city of Las Vegas, after 50 years of litigations, the judge decided on the city of Las Vegas' side, and we won the 1835 and the 1880 water right priorities of the city of Las Vegas against the acequias. And there's, I don't know how many days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for either side to appeal. Hopefully no one appeals and we move on, we move forward. and we stopped paying thousands and millions of dollars to attorneys. But I tell you, they did a good job for us. But yeah, those are the good things. Mr. Vaqueras, can you make those recommendations to mayor and council as part of your report on Wednesday?
Yes,
The Rodriguez Park, and the other one is the golf course. Of course, I don't know. I think that would be more towards Highlands asking for that request because they're the owners. The city has nothing to do with it. Other than that, we did commit $80,000 for the first 2 years for them to try and restart it back up. The first 40,000 for 1 year, and then the next 40,000 in contingency that they proved to us that it's going in the right direction. So, but yeah, make those 2 recommendations in behalf of this committee.
Rodriguez Park and Golf Course.
Pardon me?
Rodriguez Park and Golf Course.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
And I am with you, Mr. Franklin, that there is a lot of needs in this community. We could improve all our parks by 110%, including Harris Pond, by putting canopies and so forth and making it more handicap accessible. We could, improve our own city buildings. We could, request for a new city hall. There's tons and tons of requests that, that we could have. I think the last time about, when we got the COVID money, we had like 2 pages of projects that we could have spent that money on. And it was hard to break it down to what we spent it on. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to get our investment back up from what we did. And that's why it's important that these committees give those recommendations. That way we know what the community is thinking about and what's important to them. As you know, we spent a lot of money there on Bridge Street. We purchased that road there coming into the Camino de las Escuelas to widen that up. I mean, we still have to work on that one. And then we paved in between 10th Street and Bridge Street, which wasn't the plan at all. But since Highlands paved the university, well, we decided to just go ahead and continue it to the new project. I mean,
what funds are being used for this whole project here on the plaza?
Well, part of it is a New Mexico DOT matching funds that we got. That's where Commissioner Walter Adams and the commission helped us out with. And then the Camino de las Escuelas, that's city funds that we purchased that property, and we'll be using city funds to do that, sidewalks and curves and gutter and the street itself.
And all the digging, all the infrastructure on the bottom that they're doing, is that DOT? Is that tied to DOT, or is that your match?
Which one? Which one?
The one here on the plaza. You know how that you said that was DOT?
Yes.
But all the digging, all the infrastructure that you're doing, all the new piping on the bottom?
Well, some of that piping had to do with city funding. The utilities department, that's where you saw that. The question you asked earlier about where that money is being spent and how come we have so much or whatever. Those kind of projects, sometimes you got to use that kind of funding for it, especially on the unexpected stuff that goes on in those projects. Tonight, Wednesday's night meeting, we're also going to have, I believe, on the agenda, how much is that project on Legion from Grand to 7th Street? Mr. Vaquera, do you recall?
Don't recall right off, but it's 1.7 if I had to guess.
Yeah, $1.6 million project for next year from the DOT with $190,000 matching from the city of Las Vegas or something like that. I don't have the information in front of me, but that will be approving on Wednesday, hopefully. That's another well-worth project that's near schools and parks. And that's probably one of the highest traffic roads there is, that needs in dire need of repair, and street lighting also. So, we're moving forward, and we're applying ourselves and trying to obtain as much money as we can and do as many streets as we can. Hot Springs Boulevard is another one that we'll be looking at. Independence is another one. So I think we're actually, our city managers transferring all our P&M lights to LED lights. I think that's an expense of, I can't remember.
That's money. That takes money.
$66,000 or something like that, that we authorized for them to switch over. All our lights are outdated and they're yellow, and really it's a safety issue for our citizens. You go down Legion and 5 of them are off and the rest are yellowish. You can't see, pedestrians and so forth. So the whole town, as many lights as we can, I think they're like probably 80% owned by P&M. All of those are going to be converted to LED lights. And then the city will start working on their lights, something like that. Okay. Anyway, that's hard to talk out of my brain. Those are kind of things that we're doing and that we're moving the city forward. I want to thank Eleanor Duran, if you're still listening to us, for taking down the minutes and having everything on time for us, and for setting up my computer up here, our deputy clerk. Anything else? No other questions? With that, I'll stand to hear a motion to approve the November 5th financial report and make a recommendation to Mayor and Council for approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Dana Menes,
Yes.
Ms. Francina Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Alan Franken,
Yes.
Councilman Montoya,
Abstain. Motion passes unanimously. You got your recommendation, Mr. Vaqueros.
got him?
Don't forget to recommend those 2 items as priorities.
Yes, sir.
And our next meeting is scheduled for December the 7th, January the 17th, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's again on a Monday before Wednesday of the city council meeting.
Okay.
And Mr. Vaqueros, for the record, please indicate the next meeting on your packet on the agenda. On the bottom, just put on there next meeting and whatever date and whatever month it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will
That way,
do.
that way everybody knows, or if they forget, they can always look at their agenda. And that's
You got
me.
it?
And I'm talking to myself.
No, you're still there.
Okay. Any other business? Anybody? No? So I hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Do you hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All in favor? Meeting adjourned. We'll see you next month.
All right. Thank you all.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Merry
Have a Merry
Christmas.
Christmas
Happy
and
New
Happy
Year.
New Year to everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.